would like to share a story with you all about a young boy named Jordan David. Jordan David suffers from what's known as Dravet syndrome. And Dravet syndrome is a very rare, very severe form of epilepsy which causes Jaden to have very severe seizures. Seizures that are so severe he had to be rushed to the hospital 44 times, all before the age of 6, and was prescribed 11 different types of medications just to keep his symptoms from getting too fatal. His symptoms were so severe to the point that it started to escalate, and his dad could not handle watching his son deteriorate like the way he was. It got so bad to the point where Jordan's father considered committing suicide. But before committing suicide, he looked into one more other alternative, medicinal marijuana. And believe it or not, after taking medicinal marijuana, his son's symptoms either became minimized or there was no symptoms at all after a while. Not necessarily the type of marijuana where you hear college kids recreationally smoke all the time, but a non-psychoactive liquid form of it. I'm telling this story to prove my point that weed, both recreational and medicinal, should be legalized. Why is it that substances such as cigarettes and alcohol is considered okay in our society, while something such as weed with great health, social, and economic benefits is considered taboo? Why is it that our government either fails to recognize or want to admit that there is benefits to decriminalizing marijuana? I picked this subject because it's very relevant, especially to college kids. According to usnews.com, 1 in every 17 college kids smokes weed every day. Now, with all the different subjects that comes about when it comes to criminalizing or decriminalizing marijuana, I picked 3 to hit on. One being, prohibition simply has failed and doesn't work. If you look at the history of our country, prohibition has never worked. We tried to prohibit alcohol and it raised the crime rate. The mafia and other immigrants and sorts of black market crime started to accelerate rapidly. Also, prohibition was based upon lies. For example, the myth that marijuana kills brain cells. According to ChicagoNews.com, this study was done on monkeys, but the monkeys lost their brain cells not due to the weed, but due to being asphyxiated from the gas mask that was on their face. Second issue, with weed being prohibited, there has been money spent on the prohibition itself. Weed costs entirely too much money to prohibit. And also, taxpayers have to spend a lot of money on the people that get caught with these petty crimes, such as get a couple grams of weed or $30 worth of weed. You have to pay their room and board and food and etc. while in prison. And thirdly, medicinal marijuana not being legal everywhere within itself is a problem. According to Medicare.com, weed helps the symptoms with chemo nausea, HIV and AIDS, chronic illnesses and injuries such as arthritis and glaucoma. My solution to help these problems is to lift the prohibition. Once the prohibition is lifted, use the now taxed weed to help lift up our states, our country's debt, and also make legal marijuana, make medicinal marijuana legal everywhere. Some people may believe the crime rate will go up if we lift the prohibition. Well, if you look at the statistics for Colorado, after they lift the prohibition, according to drugpolicy.info, their crime rate went down 2.2% within the first 10 months. Some people may say it costs too much to legalize marijuana. Well, according to Huffington Post, we already spent $20 billion on trying to fight this war on drugs that we are losing, very much so. And also, some people might say marijuana is bad for the body. Well, I report to the story of Jaden and people like Jaden. And if medical marijuana is bad for the body, why is there such thing as medical marijuana? My vision for the future is that once a prohibition is lifted, crime rate will in fact be lowered, because now the black market is not going to be a thing when it comes to marijuana. And organizations such as the cartel, who in fact make 60% of their profit from marijuana, will not be able to be a thing, which will lead to less violence and less people being arrested. Also, with it being unprohibited now, the cost on prohibition will not be a factor, and now we'll be able to lift our country out of debt by now taxing the weed. Also, for medical usage of weed, people with terminal illnesses will be able to use the weed all throughout the country to help live out the rest of their lives more peacefully than they are now. And people with chronic illnesses such as arthritis will be able to use something that's less addictive for once to help subside their pain. Now, there's things that we can do now to take action to help the future become now, like such as voting for that have the same principles and views as us. But I believe whether or not weed becomes legal, I feel as though the usage would be at an all-time high.